Diana from the G.A.I.T program, and I'm just so happy to be here. So, Diana, what's the mission of the G.A.I.T program?
G.A.I.T's mission is to provide equine assisted services to children and adults with special needs so that they can have a more independent life in society.
What inspired G.A.I.T's creation, and how has it evolved since its conception?
G.A.I.T was founded by Martha Dubinsky in 1995. She was always a horse lover, grew up with horses, and she wanted to share that with others, especially when she saw the positive impact horses could have with children in particular. She started with borrowing a couple of horses at this, small barn in Jersey, doing therapeutic riding, and that's expanded to now we have 10 horses. We have our own facility here in Milford, Pennsylvania. We provide therapeutic riding as well as equine assisted learning, equine facilitated psychotherapy, and speech therapy on horseback. We also have programs for veterans and have to partner with local children and youth to provide more mental health services.
Can you give me some examples of some success stories where this program has really helped an individual and their families?
Yeah, I have several that come to mind. One would be a teenage girl who had severe anxiety and selective mutism. Through working with the horse and developing a partnership and connection with the horse, she was able to come out of her shell and start speaking more, at least to get the horse commands. We've had veterans tell us how they have a renewed sense of peace through looking at the horse. And one that comes to mind for me personally when I started volunteering here when I was 14 was a little boy who had no core strength at all. We had to be held in his father's arms and full support to help them be on the horse. And I had moved away, and a couple of years later came back to visit and got to see that little boy again. And his father was still holding him, carrying him, but he was able to sit upright and hold his own upper body up. So I think we're seeing that really take for granted that we're able to do. That was a huge achievement for that child and great for, for me to see the impact as well.
I think what's your favorite part about working with the program?
It's hard to pick just one. There's been so many over the years, obviously, to see participants able to achieve something they've been working on, just having a great time. To the different relationships I've had with volunteers and staff members, I have developed a couple of lifelong friends from the community we built here, and obviously the horses and the connections that I've made with them over the years. When I was a teenager, first volunteering here, my favorite horse was named Rebel, and he was almost 40 when he passed away. So he was an old guy, and consider him my heart horse.
How long do horses usually?
About 25 to 30 years.
Wow, so it's really old.
Yeah, he was very old. And a lot of our horses tend to be seniors as well. We currently have a horse that we don't know his exact age, but he is, we guess, between mid-30s to 40, has ended, and their owners, weren't able to continue with what they were doing with that particular horse. Like, let's say someone was a show jumper, a lesson horse, if they're just physically not up to that task anymore, but they still had a lot to give and a lot of life. And the common thing that I've seen from those people dating horses, that they wanted their horse to have a purpose. And horses do generally like to have a purpose and have something to do versus be a backyard pet.
What are some of the ways that G.A.I.T has really helped the most, do you think?
I think G.A.I.T helps in a lot of ways, the most profound being gaining independence, emotional resilience, and increasing confidence and self-esteem, whether that's, participant working on their motor skills or course shying to a veteran, finding solace to someone with, anxiety, kind of working through that through their bond with the horse, that human-horse connection.
So what's a challenge you really weren't expecting with the program?
I think the biggest challenge would be constantly having to navigate financial stability. There is a growing demand for equine assisted services. All centers struggle with the same thing, but of course, for us to keep our costs low, we're always looking for new donors, grants, looking for ways to engage the community to help support us. Horses are expensive, and even for participants themselves, we have a lot of participants who rely on scholarships and funding for themselves to be able to afford these programs.
How do you select a horse for a rider?
So when we select a horse and we're looking for a horse to accept into our program, their temperament is important, probably the most important. Obviously, we want a horse that's sound, that is going to be able to hold up and knows what they're doing, but that willingness to be with people and a lot of forgiveness, because we do have participants who may move unpredictably, unexpectedly. They may have assistive devices. They may be loud or, jerky movements that could startle a horse. So ours are less reactive. They're still horses. They're still going to, live off of their instincts, but they're less likely to react, and we do a lot to keep them comfortable and keep everything as safe as possible. And when it comes to matching a participant with the horse, particularly with riding, if they're going to be in therapeutic riding, for example, we are considering the horse's personality, their build, if someone needs a wider base of support, if they may need a wider horse, if they have really tight muscles in their legs, that wider horse may be a hindrance and could hurt them. So maybe they need a narrow horse, and the type of movement that the horse is able to give. Some are really smooth and slow. Some may be a little bit quicker. You feel a lot of movement, which would be great for somebody who needs that sensory input. And if their groundwork, usually their temperament, are they more, quiet and steady going? Someone who has anxiety, maybe nervous approaching a horse, that may be the horse to go with. And then there are others who are more inquisitive, curious, maybe. We have some horses who are kind of cheeky and playful and more outgoing, just like people are, introverted, extroverted. So horses can be that way as well. So we take those into consideration too.
So how does that work though? Do you meet the client beforehand and get to know them, or you hear about the client, what they need individually, and then try out different horses? Or
yeah, that's a great question as well. So we do have a little intake process over the phone with a little assessment form, so we can get some basic information about that person and their goals and what they're looking for. We do have program applications as well that would provide some more information that way. And there's a medical form that a doctor would have to sign off. So we get some kind of information with them. But of course, what you see in person may be different from what's on paper. It's hard to quantify people on paper. We will sometimes have people come and visit, do a tour. We may have to assess them, particularly if we're not sure about how steady they are with the mounting process. We can practice on a barrel before we get to a horse. There are instances where the therapeutic riding that I may just have that paperwork and I'm leaving them on that day. So we have a couple horses we know. We think that's the go-to. They're nice and steady. Well, we'll put that person on that horse and we kind of assess them in that moment in that first lesson. We do try to keep things consistent with people, so we're not changing a horse on them every single week, but we will make adjustments as needed. If I think, okay, that person's got really good balance, they might benefit from this horse over here who has a little bit more energy, or that's a good match. We're going to keep that person on that steady Eddie horse.
What kind of assistive technology do you guys use?
Our mounted we're typically use English saddle. Just what we're most familiar with. Other centers may use a Western saddle. You may make adjustments in the tag for the individual's needs. They need a little bit more support. For hypnotherapy, we work with a speech and language pathologist. We'll actually use what's called a sursignal. We use a Western pad, and it's like a belt with handles on that. So that's as close to bareback as we can get, so they can really feel the horse's movement underneath them without in the confines of a saddle necessarily. And we have made adaptations, even our therapeutic riding class, where let's say someone who uses a wheelchair may be difficult to transfer from the chair onto a saddle. Not all the time, but sometimes. So that'd be one of the things we would have to assess. So we have used the surcingle in that scenario, and we can kind of rig stirrups to that as well to help give them give them that support.
Do you involve volunteers, and what role do they play?
Absolutely. And they are a huge role to what we do here. We would not be able to do any of this without them. They're just as important as the horses. Majority of our volunteers help during our therapeutic riding classes because those are usually group lessons. It takes a lot of people to do that. So we start everyone with sidewalker training, working next to the horse and rider so they can help engage that rider. We will get them to participate with different on stretches and directions, as well as keeping them safe as we can be. Then we have additional training to teach people how to groom a horse, get them ready before the classes, and eventually lead a horse in the class. We also have volunteers help us with keeping the place clean. We do have barn staff who feed and take care of the horses in the facility, but our volunteers have a huge play in that as well. So that it's a huge help. There's only 2 full-time staff here, and everybody else is part-time handful of people. So the volunteers chipping in like that is huge. They help us to maintain the pastures, cleaning up the horse manure, keeping up gardens nice, so the facility looks nice and is a welcoming place to not just participants but their families as well. They have helped clean stalls if we need the extra help, and our fundraising events, going to sitting at a booth at table somewhere to spread information. We've had volunteers who started as volunteers and didn't know anything about horses and are currently board members on our board and even advisory council. So,
are any of your volunteers former clients?
Yes. So I'm glad you brought that up. We do have a couple of volunteers who started as participants and transitioned into becoming a volunteer. So that is really been great to see that they're able to be involved, be able to give back.
The progression.
Yeah. And they're learning other skills. So they would have started, as a participant, could be, if grooming a horse or riding, whatever that may be. Now they're having to do that in a barn setting and for the programming to make that work and interacting with others. And they're sometimes some of the best volunteers that we have because they can meet someone on that level. They can understand what is going on and what that person may need.
All right. So obviously the program can be very expensive to maintain. So how is the program funded?
We do have program fees, but we try to keep those costs as low as possible for participants, as well as providing scholarships for those who need the additional funding. So the majority of our income comes from sponsorships, personal donations, grants. We're getting a lot of grants and doing different fundraising events while we can. And that is always a constant battle as well to look and see what those resources are. We do have programs for membership as well as horse sponsorships. Someone wants to support a horse, they can donate to our GeneWorks Scholarship Fund directly. We have kickstarting new campaigns that businesses can sponsor and have their information here as well. And we're always looking for new ideas again for the community engagement.
So what are some ways that the community can help?
They can support us through volunteering. We're always looking for new volunteers to help with our programs, donations, obviously, coming to our fundraising events, even just getting the word out, letting people know that we're here, sharing our Facebook posts or social media. And we do have a wish list on our website as well for small things we may need. So people can go on our website, G.A.I.T, and see what little items are there and click on that if they would like. We also have a program for companies if they want to sponsor us. They can have their a sign on the wall, get a little bit of advertising for themselves as well as support at good cost.
I'll put the link below so that anyone who's interested can click on it and help support the program. What are some of the hopes for the future of the program?
We hope to expand our programs to be able to, serve more people who need us, particularly with mental health services. There's a huge need for that. We feel that people could benefit from coming here. We'd like to establish more partnership with other local organizations that are, doing similar things. And we've started that process with a couple such as children and youth. Currently, we are working on building a therapeutic garden so that people can come and relax and buy a horseshoe for memorialize somebody that can be part of the garden as well.
Is there any special works that you really wanted people to know about?
Yes, we're working on a capital campaign to work on our financial stability for the next 30 years. We've been for 30 years already. And we are working on that therapeutic garden with a little fundraiser that could get a horseshoe to memorialize somebody and have that be a part of our garden. And working with local organizations as well to expand our services to anybody who needs that.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank
It
you
was
for coming.
really such a great time talking to you. And I enjoy hearing all about this program. It's wonderful, and I think it does a lot of good. And I really hope that everybody out there, do your part and try and support this program because it's really great. Thank you so much.